Okay, so here we are live once again with another Marvel Legends unboxing and another episode in our Black History Month theme. And this one is Nick Fury from Secret Invasion. That's Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury from the MCU. And he comes with a Build-A-Figure piece, but I don't have the rest of the Build-A-Figure, unfortunately. But he's got the leg for the Hydra Stomper, which I believe is a what-if version of Steve Rogers, where he has Howard Stark builds him basically an Ironmonger suit back during World War II. So we're changing the itinerary up a little bit because originally I'd planned on doing Luke Fox for this episode, but the episode got delayed because when I was going to try to do one when I got home from work, but I was just way too tired when I got home from work on Monday morning, so I wasn't able to do one, and I had very little turnaround time. Well, it was a no, I'm sorry, Sunday. I worked Monday night, and I got home Tuesday morning, and I was really, really tired. So, so wound up not doing one. Then, like I'd hoped I'd be able to do, and then Thursday. I'm sorry, Tuesday. I'm getting my days all mixed up. Tuesday, before going into work. I had very little turnaround time. I got home so late from work Monday on Tuesday morning, so I worked overnight, and I just did not have the energy to do a proper episode. So I was like, screw it. I'll just see. Maybe I can do a bonus episode later on in the week. And Luke Fox is getting bumped because of that. So we're gonna go straight into Samuel L. Jackson, and if I got time to do Luke Fox, I'll do a bonus episode sometime between now and Friday, so we can try to squeeze in our Black Batman for Black History Month. Uh, but for now, this episode is going to be Nick Fury, and then the next episode is going to be the Masterverse version of Pighead, and then the other change to our itinerary is I did wind up getting this in the mail the other day. Our 3-pack of Sunman, Pighead, and Space Sumo from the Masters of the Universe Origins line. Now, I had planned on doing as my final episode in our Black History Month theme. I had planned on just opening up this single carded version of Sunman. But since I got this 3-pack now, I've decided what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to open up both of these as a single episode since, the Sunman figure is almost the same. It's got a different head. That's the only real difference. So yeah, last episode is still going to be the Sunman unboxing, but we're going to have a 3-pack of action figures to add to it. So that's going to be the last episode in our Black History Month theme, and I can't think of a better way to end our look at Black history of action figures than by closing out with Sunman, who is going to be one of the most important action figures that we're going to talk about. Not this one. This one's like a remake, but the original Sunman is very important in terms of like overall the Black history of action figures. So let's go ahead and have a look at our package. And we already saw the back. Got Nick Fury there. He comes with a few accessories. He comes with a couple of guns. Looks like the same sort of gun that uh, uh, well, the Tolkien white guy came with. Drawing a blank on his Everett Ross. Sorry, yeah, Everett Ross, and a couple of pew pews and some smoky effects. Got a nice portrait of Sam Jackson on the side there, and you can see that he's got a nice beard with a little bit of gray going in it because that's what he had in Secret Invasion. I never saw Secret Invasion. I never watched it because I did not hear good things about that show. And that disappointed me because I'm a big fan of Nick Fury as a character. I'm a big fan of Samuel L. Jackson as an actor. It seems like the sort of thing I've been waiting on to see like a Nick Fury solo project out of the MCU. But I heard it wasn't very good. And I heard that they didn't really treat the character of Nick Fury very well in that series. And that's a shame because Nick Fury is a really cool character in pretty much every iteration. There's what the top of the box looks like, by the way. So Nick Fury was created in the 1960s by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. And legend has it he was created on a bet because Martin Goodman, the publisher of Marvel Comics at the time, he had made Stan a bet, apparently, that allegedly that he couldn't do, this Fantastic Four style of book, it works for superheroes, but it wouldn't work for like just any genre. Like you couldn't do, say, a war book and have it in that style and have it be popular. So Stan and Jack took up the challenge and they created Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos. Here's a little baggie with the accessories. We're going to set that aside for now. So, which originally was a World War II based book about, an army sergeant and his Howling Commandos. And if you remember the Howling Commandos from the Captain America First Avenger movie with Dum Dum Dugan, well, that's where they originally came from. They originally, were under the leadership of Nick Fury. And not only did it prove to be a popular comic, it proved to be so popular that readers demanded to know, well, what happened to Nick Fury after World War II. And it turned out he'd been promoted to colonel and eventually became a CIA agent. They revealed this in an issue of Fantastic Four. Like I said, Fantastic Four is the most important comic of Marvel's Silver Age, no question. There's our Hydra Buster leg. We're going to set that aside. Maybe I can get the rest of these parts at some time. Who knows? But I got this figure almost a year ago, and I got him when he was on sale at Target. And I actually got two of these because I figured he'd be good for some custom work. By the way, I've got some custom stuff I'm working on right now. I'll go ahead and show you for anybody out there in the audience that's interested. So I made this Alfredo Alcala style Skeletor head that fits on Masters Universe Origins. And I found this is a 3D print that I found on cults3d.com. And this is one where a person had actually scanned the Masters Universe Classics Alcala head and modified it so it will fit on Origins. I didn't have to do any further modification to it. It just pops right on. It's perfect. Excellent job on that. So all I really did was print it out and paint it, and got myself an Alcala style Skeletor. He's my favorite Masters Universe artist of all. And then also, you remember one of the things I was really disappointed about with this cartoon collection Merman is that he did not come with the corn sword. And yeah, I know he didn't use the corn sword on the cartoon, but still he should have come with a corn sword. So I 3D printed him his very own corn sword. So now he has one. He doesn't have to feel left out when he stands on the shelf with with the vintage style Origins figure and the Lords of Power Origins figure. Now they all have corn swords. So that's nice for him. Anyway, let's go ahead and have a look at this bag with the accessories in it. So Nick Fury's return in Fantastic Four. Well, I say return. They were still publishing the World War II comic, but the revelation of what he was up to in the 1960s was popular enough that they decided to do a whole comic book about Nick Fury being a spy. And rather than keep him as a CIA agent, they invented their own fictitious spy agency for Nick Fury to work for. And in a series in Strange Tales, they had a comic about Nick Fury, a comic strip called Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. So that's where S.H.I.E.L.D. came from. So yeah, now Nick Fury wound up becoming a very popular and important character in the Marvel Universe. And honestly, I kind of feel like Nick is more successful as a side character than as a main character. And if you watch the MCU, you can see what I'm talking about is that, he's been a side character in all these movies, and like that's what you mainly know him as. And then they did the Secret Agent series, and people didn't like that one so much. But I think they still could do a series just like how Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., had some good runs in the comics. So they could still do that with the character in the show. But unfortunately, the reception just was not there. But I think that had more to do with the quality of the show. And I haven't seen it, so I don't know. I could be mistaken. Maybe some of you out there really enjoyed it, and if you did, please let me know what you enjoyed about it in the comments, and maybe I should go back and check it out. So I'm open to suggestions. So he's got two pistols, and one of which has a suppressor attached to it. And this is permanently attached. We ain't talking GI Joe Classified here. They didn't go all out and make a removable suppressor, but it does have the little hole in the barrel, so we can put the pew pews in there. So there's what it looks like when it's firing, and then there's a little plume of smoke, like after he's just puked somebody with a silencer in, and little translucent smoke trail coming out there. And then we've got the pistol without the suppressor, and that works pretty much the same way. So let's have a look at that. So there that is with the smoke. And oh, these are actually different shapes. I didn't notice they were different shapes. One of these is a little like longer and wispier, just slightly. You see that? And that's what that looks like. And then of our two our two gunfire effects, one of them is slightly longer than the other, so that's what that looks like. All right, so having looked at our accessories, let's have a look at Nick Fury himself. And there actually is one more accessory, because he's got this knit cap on his head, this beanie, and that actually is removable, so you can take that off. And there's what he looks like without that. And other than the bit of gray in his beard, and actually the length of the beard, it does look pretty similar to Samuel L. Jackson, as he's appeared in most of the MCU movies. So even if you don't want like a specifically secret invasion version of Nick Fury, this would probably still look pretty good in your collection. You might want to maybe paint over the gray a little bit, but I wouldn't, because gray beards look really cool and the ladies love them. I mean, I'm just saying, like, it's why would you want to do that to the poor guy? So he's already in a show that like didn't do very well. So this torso seems pretty solid, and this is a trench coat that's like it's permanently attached to the figure. It is not at all removable. It doesn't open up or anything like that. And it looks like to me that like this is all just one solid body. It feels really solid. It doesn't feel to me like there's a joint underneath the torso at all, but there might be. It just might be so tight that I can't get it to move. So let's talk about the articulation. Nick Fury can look up about that far, look down about that far. Great range of motion for looking down. Tilt the head kind of quizzically from side to side. Rotate the head all the way around. Of course, the arms rotate all the way around at the shoulders, and they move up about that far. They're kind of ratcheting a little bit. There we go. So I think that one can maybe move a little bit more, but it seems like that's about as far as it's going to go. Usually with these jackets, they kind of hinder the movement a little bit, so we're used to that. He's got a bicep sole, so the bicep rotates all the way around. He's got double jointed elbows, which are kind of gummy on mine. There we go. I got it in a move. Never force your action figure joints. Gently coax them. And if gentle coaxing isn't enough, apply some heat to it. Use some hot water or a hair dryer. You don't want to force your joints, because that's how you wind up breaking your joints. Even if you don't break it, you could like stretch it out of shape and then you get a loose joint. Who wants loose joints? That's a bad scene. Nobody wants that. Moving on. He does have wrist articulation, so the wrists rotate all the way around, and it looks like it has a vertical hinge. So it goes down about that far, goes up about that far. That's what I prefer to have in gun-toting characters, by the way. That usually works better for gun-toting characters. And of course, Nick Fury he's got two pistoles. So there we go. And you can see great range of motion as far as that vertical hinge. I think that's really good for what we've seen of that. So leg articulation, this is going to be interesting to talk about, because he can't really move these legs too much. He's got a solid trench coat that's hindering that very much. You can basically probably move these legs well enough that you can get the figure to stand up. That's about it. But the way that he's designed, that's just how that's going to be. So One thing that I will talk about with Nick Fury in the comic book versus the movie that we haven't really touched on is that in the comic book originally Nick Fury was white, and he was white for most of his creation until we got into the Ultimates comics in the 2000s, and Mark Miller and Brian Hitch, was it? They were the creative team on that book, and the decision was made to draw Nick Fury to look like Samuel L. Jackson. So they didn't bother to ask Sam if this was okay. By the way, they just I guess figured it was better to ask for forgiveness than permission. And of course, it did eventually get back to the actor, who thankfully is a big fan of comic books. So he was willing to let it slide on the condition that if they ever made a movie based on the Ultimates comics, that he would be the guy that would get cast as Nick Fury in the movie. So I did not have any problem with this at the time. I already mentioned I'm a big fan of Samuel L. Jackson. It was cool to see a character in the comic books based off of him. And I was always a big fan of the original Nick Fury. So my philosophy on it was kind of, well, I kind of felt like the original version of Nick Fury was sort of the Sergeant Fury, the World War II character, was kind of loosely based off of like John Wayne. If you look at the way he's drawn in those early issues and the character's personality, you can imagine that character being played by John Wayne, who was, one of the most badass actors around at that time. My grandfather's favorite actor. So fast forward to the early 2000s when I'm a young man, and who's the most badass actor in Hollywood at that time? Samuel L. Jackson. So it just made sense to me. It was, that's why you change it. So and of course Sam did a great job playing Nick Fury in the movies and was very much a highlight of the movies. So that's one example of when you're talking about race swapping, that's one example of where it worked out brilliantly. So, kudos to them for doing that. Let's talk a little bit more about the articulation, such as it is at the legs. Now, there is a thigh cut, so the thigh does rotate all the way around. And they do move out to the sides. He cannot do the splits. There is very much a problem here. Can't move his legs back and forth that much. Like I said, you can basically move his legs enough to stand him up. He can't sit in a chair. He can't sit in a vehicle, like they make Marvel Legends vehicles. And he's got double jointed knees, but again, there's not a whole lot you can do with the knees. Actually, they do bend up all the way because he does have that slit in the back of the trench coat, so that does kind of help with that. But other than that, the articulation is not too impressive with this guy. But it's Nick Fury. He's not like a gymnast. He's not going to go like jumping around on rooftops like freaking Daredevil. He's Nick Fury. So it's good enough articulation, I think, for Nick Fury. It's an excellent likeness of Samuel L. Jackson. Samuel L. Jackson at this point has had a lot of action figures based on him between Star Wars, where he played Mace Windu, and the MCU, where he's played Nick Fury. This is not even my first Samuel L. Jackson Nick Fury, by the way. I've got a 3 3/4 inch version of him, and I've got another Marvel Legends scale version that came out around the time of Captain America: First Avenger, and that was one where they pretty much just took a Punisher figure and put a Nick Fury head on it, and that's all they really did to it. So, but that makes sense because guy in a trench coat. So just here's another guy in a trench coat. So, and of course, they introduced in the comic books the character of Nick Fury Jr., who is Nick Fury's bastard son, who he had with a black woman. So now they have a Nick Fury in the mainstream Marvel comics that looks more like Samuel L. Jackson. So I guess in the Marvel universe, Samuel L. Jackson's Nick Fury is the son of David Hasselhoff's Nick Fury. How about that? Anyway, this is a really cool figure. And I got him at Target. Like I said, I ordered it off the Target website like a year ago when they were on sale for like $10 a piece. And I haven't really bothered to check and see what he's going for nowadays. But if you can get him for like the regular retail price of a Marvel Legends figure or cheaper, I would suggest you do so because this is a pretty great figure. Like I said, the only real problems with this figure is the articulation is pretty horrible in terms of like in terms of like the Marvel Legends standards. It's bad articulation, but it's just the design of the figure. He's a guy in a trench coat. He's not gonna be able to be moving around. Like really, the only way they could get good articulation out of a character in a trench coat is to do a soft goods trench coat, and we don't generally see soft goods too much in Marvel Legends anyway. So this is the rare Marvel Legends figure that actually has legitimately bad articulation. But on the other hand, it's Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury, and who can complain about that? Let's go ahead and put the guns in his hands before we bring this episode to a close, because I know you guys want to see the guns in his hands, and of course I'm going to wind up wanting to have the guns in his hands in the thumbnail, so I can get him into as much of an action pose as I can for like an action figure who can't really move his legs in any notable way. And even though he comes with the beanie on and he's got the beanie and the action figure packaging artwork, I'm going to leave it off of him because I want that more sort of iconic Nick Fury look. That's how he's going to look in the thumbnail. That's how we're going to do that. So great job on this figure. The articulation is not the best, but again, if with this design, I don't guess they had a whole lot of options to really get some good articulation out of this guy. But it's a nice looking figure. It'll look nice on your shelf. And if you're collecting MCU figures, you gotta have Nick Fury. He's like such an important character as far as the MCU overall. He's like a thread that connects everything. Hell, he was really the first character to be a crossover character in the MCU, if you think about it, because he shows up for that cameo at the end of Iron Man. That's the first hint in that first Iron Man movie that this isn't just a movie. This is part of a larger tapestry that they're weaving. And it was Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury that they decided to be that anchor character, and he worked out beautifully for that. Like I said, so very cool. Another entry in our Black History Month theme that is just a really important character as far as our popular culture in general. So next episode, which today is Wednesday, I believe. I should have worn my Wednesday shirt because it's Wednesday, but instead I wore Beetlejuice. So I wore a completely different Jenna Ortega thing. Actually, I don't know if this is a picture from the first Beetlejuice movie, so I don't know if it came out around the time as that second movie, which I still haven't seen yet. But our next episode is, unless I can do a bonus episode in between now and then to fit Luke Fox in, but our next episode is going to be Pighead, the Masterverse version of Pighead. I do not have the Masterverse version of Sunman yet, but I'm planning on picking him up soon. But obviously, I'm not going to have him in time for Black History Month. But that's okay. We've got lots of Masters of the Universe that we're going to be opening soon. So that's going to be the next theme. And then Friday's episode, February 28th, last day of February. That's when we're going to open up our single carded Sunman and the 3-pack of Sunman, Pighead, and Space Sumo. This guy is like really ripped for a sumo wrestler. He does not look like a sumo wrestler at all. He looks way more like a ninja than he does a sumo, but we'll talk more about that in that episode. And if you want to make sure you don't miss it, make sure that you like, subscribe, all the fun YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about Nick Fury, both this figure specifically and the character in general. And no judgments here, but what's your favorite version of Nick Fury? Do you prefer the original classic Silver Age comic book version, the white one, or this newfangled Samuel L. Jackson version. Personally, I feel like they both have a lot of merits. I've got a lot more of a nostalgic connection to the original Nick Fury, so I love them both. I don't know if I could honestly pick one. I was really glad that when they introduced Nick Fury Jr. into the Marvel continuity, that it did not erase the original Nick Fury, because as much as I like the Samuel L. Jackson version of the character, like I said, I still do love that original version. So I kind of feel like it's better to have both. You know, like it's better. More characters is usually better as far as like your fictional universes go. So it's cool to have Nick Fury Senior and Nick Fury Junior. I think that was a nice touch. Anyway, that's just me. That's just my opinion. We'll talk to you next time. Bye.